welcome to our deep dive into the FIFA World Cup finals.
That's right. We're going to be uncovering some pretty cool insights and trivia.
Yeah.
All about the history and the drama.
You think of it as like your cheat sheet to becoming a World Cup expert.
Exactly.
And it's all thanks to these Wikipedia excerpts that you shared with us.
Yeah, we're going to go way beyond just the basics, instead of just kind of like rattling off facts and figures.
Right.
We'll really explore like the why behind those facts, the stories that make the World Cup finals so captivating.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I know that the FIFA World Cup is this massive international soccer tournament, or football, as most of the world calls it.
Yeah.
And it happens every 4 years.
Yeah.
But what makes the final match so special?
Yeah, so the final match, it isn't just about crowning a champion.
Right.
It's a culmination of national pride, years of preparation, the dreams of millions.
Yeah.
It's a moment when the world truly unites and is captivated by this drama unfolding on the field.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the format. It's a single elimination match.
Uh-huh.
So that means it all comes down to those 90 minutes, right?
Right, but if the score is tied after regulation time,
Yeah.
they go into extra time,
Okay.
which is another 30 minutes.
Got it.
And then if it's still tied after that, then it goes to a penalty shootout.
Penalty shootouts talk about pressure.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard, though, that they weren't always a part of the World Cup.
Right.
So how did they decide the winner before penalty shootouts?
So before 1986, a tied final would have actually been replayed.
Wow.
Although it's interesting, it never actually happened.
Oh, wow.
And then for a brief period, they had the golden goal rule where the first goal in extra time wins.
Oh, wow. Can you imagine
Can you imagine?
the intensity?
Oh, the tension would be off the charts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So out of all the countries that have ever competed, how many have actually made it to the final match?
So out of the 80 nations that have participated in the World Cup, only 13 have ever reached the final.
Wow.
Even more striking is that only 8 have actually lifted the trophy.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing there's some patterns then in terms of which countries dominate the final.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brazil is in a league of its own.
Right.
They've participated in every single World Cup,
Wow.
and they've won the title 5 times,
Yeah.
more than any other country.
So what makes their football program so consistently successful?
Well, it's likely a combination of factors, right?
Right.
So Brazil has this deep-rooted football culture where the sport is practically a religion. They also have well-established youth academies that nurture talent from a young age.
Yeah.
And of course, let's not forget the individual brilliance of legendary players like Pelé, Ronaldo,
Yeah.
Neymar.
So are there any other patterns then when it comes to countries reaching the finals?
So if you look at the list of finalists, you'll notice a distinct pattern.
Okay.
Only teams from Europe and South America have ever made it to the final.
Wow.
And that raises some important questions, Is this purely down to the historical development of the sport in those regions?
Okay.
Or are there other factors at play, like socioeconomic advantages or global power dynamics?
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it makes you think about the bigger picture,
Right.
beyond just the sport itself.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive into some fascinating facts and figures.
Okay.
From the results section of this Wikipedia article.
All right.
I was surprised to learn that Germany has reached the finals more than any other team.
Yeah.
A total of 8 times.
8 times, yeah. And they've won 4 times, which is impressive.
Right.
But they've also been runners-up 4 times, so
Wait.
it speaks to their consistency as a footballing powerhouse.
Right.
But it also raises the question of why they haven't been able to convert more of those final appearances into victories. Is it a matter of luck, tactical approaches, or maybe the pressure of being a perennial favorite?
So many questions.
Lots of questions.
I'm already starting to see all these stats in a whole new light.
Yeah.
And speaking of recent history, we can't forget about the latest final,
Right.
which was Argentina's victory over France in a dramatic penalty shootout in Qatar in 2022.
Oh, yeah, that match was truly captivating.
Yeah.
Messi finally achieving his World Cup dream.
I know.
Mbappe's hat trick.
Wow.
It was a final for the ages.
Yeah.
And it definitely added to the legacy of penalty shootouts as like the ultimate decider in World Cup history. But, even beyond the excitement, it's interesting to consider the implications of a South American team winning on Asian soil for the first time.
That is interesting.
Does this signal a potential shift in the global football landscape?
Okay. I have to ask, which final match had the most people watching?
So the 1950 final in Brazil holds the record for the highest attendance ever at a World Cup final,
Wow.
with nearly 174,000 people packed into Rio de Janeiro's Maracana Stadium.
The energy must have been unbelievable.
It's hard to even imagine that kind of atmosphere.
Wow, 174,000 people. Makes you wonder if we'll ever see those kinds of numbers again.
It's definitely a record that will be hard to beat.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
beyond the sheer numbers, it's fascinating to consider the context.
Okay.
This final took place just a few years after World War II.
Right.
And for many, it represented like a return to normalcy, a chance to celebrate and unite through the power of sport.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of locations,
Right.
let's talk about where these finals have been held.
Sure.
I noticed a pretty clear pattern in these Wikipedia excerpts.
So if you were to plot all the final locations on a map,
Yeah.
you'd see a distinct concentration in Europe and South America.
Right.
In fact, no other continents have ever hosted a World Cup final.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and this geographic distribution isn't just a coincidence. It reflects some of the historical power dynamics within FIFA.
So it's not just about where soccer is most popular.
Exactly.
Ah.
The decision of where to host the World Cup involves a lot more than just the sport itself.
Makes sense.
Political influence, economic factors, and even historical biases within FIFA play a significant role.
So while the World Cup is this global phenomenon that brings people together,
Right.
there are also these underlying power dynamics that shape the tournament.
Absolutely.
That definitely adds another layer to our understanding.
Yeah, it encourages us to think critically about the forces at play behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And to recognize that even in a sport as beloved as football,
Right.
there are these complex social and political dimensions.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see how these things are all interconnected.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered some great insights about the history and those power dynamics of the World Cup finals.
Yeah.
But now I'm ready for some real stories.
Yeah.
What are some of the most, captivating final matches?
Well, each final has its own unique narrative,
Right.
but some stand out for their historical significance or dramatic moments or sheer brilliance on the field.
For sure. So let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
What was it like at that first ever World Cup final in 1930?
So that inaugural final in Uruguay was electric. The host nation faced their fierce rivals, Argentina,
Right.
and the atmosphere was charged with tension.
I can only imagine.
Ultimately, Uruguay triumphed 4-2,
Wow.
claiming that first World Cup title and etching their name in history.
Imagine the bragging rights.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the first final covered.
Mm-hmm.
What other memorable matches come to mind?
So one that always stands out is the 1954 final, known as the Miracle of Bern.
Okay.
West Germany, the underdogs faced a formidable Hungarian team that hadn't been defeated in 4 years.
Wow.
Hungary took an early 2-0 lead, but West Germany staged this incredible comeback,
Really?
ultimately winning 3-2.
A true underdog story.
Yeah.
Why is it called the Miracle of Bern, though?
So Hungary was a dominant force at the time,
Okay.
led by the legendary Ferenc Puskás,
Right.
and their golden team revolutionized football with their innovative tactics and attacking flair.
Got it.
So for West Germany to overcome that deficit against such a formidable opponent, it was seen as a miraculous achievement.
Wow, that puts that victory into perspective.
Yeah.
It sounds like the 1954 final changed people's perceptions of what was possible in football.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It challenged the established hierarchy and showed that even against seemingly insurmountable odds, determination and tactical brilliance can prevail.
For sure. Are there any other finals where a team defied expectations or showcased a unique style of play?
So the 1970 final between Brazil and Italy was a clash of styles.
Okay.
Brazil, with their flamboyant and attacking jogo bonito style, went up against Italy's more disciplined and defensive catenaccio approach.
I love watching Jogo Bonito.
Oh, yeah.
But was Brazil's flair enough to overcome Italy's tactical discipline?
So in the end, Brazil's talent and artistry prevailed. They won 4-1,
Wow.
with Pelé scoring one of the goals and orchestrating many of their attacks.
Right.
This victory solidified Brazil's place as the masters of jogo bonito
Yeah.
and cemented Pelé's status as a global icon.
And speaking of iconic players and moments,
Right.
the 1998 final must have been special for France.
Yeah.
Their first ever World Cup title.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it on home soil.
The atmosphere in Paris that night was incredible.
I bet.
France, led by Zinedine Zidane, dominated the match,
Okay.
defeating Brazil 3-0.
Wow.
It was a moment of national pride and celebration, a testament to the unifying power of sport.
It sounds like that victory had a profound impact on France.
Yeah.
Do you think winning on home soil made it even more special?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The support of the home crowd can be a powerful force in sports. And for France, a nation with a complex history and a diverse population, that World Cup victory was a unifying moment, a symbol of national identity and shared joy.
So we've journeyed through some incredible finals.
We have.
Each adding to the rich tapestry of World Cup history.
That's right.
But I can't wait to hear more about those dramatic penalty shootouts.
Okay.
It seems like they're etched in World Cup folklore.
They definitely add another layer of drama and unpredictability. A true test of nerves for both the players and the fans.
Just thinking about it makes my heart race.
I know.
What are some of the most memorable penalty shootout moments in World Cup history?
So the 1994 final between Brazil and Italy is one for the ages.
Okay.
After a goalless draw in both regulation and extra time, the fate of the World Cup came down to a penalty shootout.
Wow.
The tension was palpable with each kick.
I can only imagine who emerged victorious after all that drama.
So Brazil ultimately won,
Okay.
but it came at a cost for Italy.
Oh, no.
Their star player, Roberto Baggio, missed the decisive penalty kick.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's a moment that captures both the elation of victory and the agony of defeat.
Right.
A stark reminder of the fine margins that often decide these epic encounters.
So sad for Baggio, but a testament to the immense pressure of those moments.
Yeah.
What other shootouts have captivated audiences?
Well, the 2006 final between Italy and France had it all.
Okay.
Zinedine Zidane, playing in his final professional match,
Wow.
was sent off after a controversial headbutt.
I remember that.
The match went to penalties,
Okay.
and Italy emerged victorious, claiming their 4th World Cup title.
Zidane's brilliance and controversy all in one match.
It really is.
It's a reminder that even the greatest players are human, subject to the same pressures and emotions as anyone else.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Those moments of human drama are what make the World Cup so compelling.
Yeah.
It's not just about the tactics and the scores,
Right.
but about the stories, the emotions, and the personalities that come to life on the field.
I completely agree.
I'm starting to get a real sense of how penalty shootouts have become an integral part of the World Cup narrative.
Yeah.
But even with all the focus on the final, I imagine the journey to get there is just as important.
Absolutely.
Right.
Each match leading up to the final is a story in itself filled with its own twists and turns.
Yeah.
The victories, the setbacks, the moments of individual brilliance all contribute to the tension and anticipation that culminate in that final showdown.
So it's not just about the destination, but about the journey, about the narrative that unfolds over the course of the entire tournament.
That's right.
Each match adding another layer to the story.
Precisely.
And it's the convergence of all those stories, all those moments of triumph and heartbreak that makes the World Cup final such a captivating spectacle.
Exactly.
Okay, before we move on to our final thoughts,
All right.
there's one more fascinating aspect of the World Cup finals that I want to explore.
Oh, I am intrigued. What else have you uncovered?
The goals.
Okay.
The goals that have decided championships, cemented legacies, and sent fans into a frenzy.
Ah, yes, the goals.
Right.
Those moments of brilliance, audacity, and sometimes even controversy that have become etched in World Cup history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what are some of the most iconic goals scored in World Cup finals? The ones that people still talk about today. We left off talking about the most iconic goals in World Cup final history, and I'm ready to hear about some of those legendary moments.
Well, one that instantly springs to mind is Pélé's goal in the 1958 final. He
Okay.
was only 17 years old at the time. And his audacious chip over the Swedish goalkeeper is still considered one of the greatest goals ever scored in a World Cup final.
17 years old, to have that kind of composure and skill on such a massive stage,
It's unbelievable, right?
it must have been a defining moment in his career.
It absolutely was. That goal announced his arrival as a global superstar
Yeah.
and solidified his place in football history.
Right.
It also helped Brazil secure their first ever World Cup title,
Wow.
marking the beginning of their dominance on the world stage.
So we've got Pele's incredible chip. What other goals have reached that legendary status?
Diego Maradona's goal of the century in the 1986 final against England is another one that stands out. It was a mesmerizing solo run weaving through the English defense before slotting the ball past the goalkeeper.
I've seen replays of that goal countless times, and it never gets old.
It's pure magic.
It is pure magic. But wasn't there another goal Maradona scored in that same match
Yes.
that sparked some controversy?
The infamous Hand of God goal, where he used his hand to punch the ball into the net.
I remember that.
It was a moment that ignited debates about sportsmanship
Yeah.
and the lengths to which players will go to win.
Of course.
But it also added to the legend of Maradona,
Right.
portraying him as both a genius and a cunning trickster.
Definitely makes that final even more memorable.
For sure.
It highlights that human element of the game,
Mm-hmm.
the emotions, the controversies, and the moments that transcend the sport itself.
I agree.
Are there any other goals that stand out for their beauty or their impact or the stories surrounding them?
So Andres Iniesta's winning goal for Spain in the 2010 final against the Netherlands is another one that's often discussed.
Okay.
It was a late goal in extra time, and it secured Spain's first ever World Cup title. But there were questions about whether a Spanish player was offside in the build-up,
Oh, real?
adding a layer of controversy to the victory.
So even in a moment of triumph, there can be those lingering questions and debates. It just adds to the complexity and the intrigue of the sport.
Exactly, and that's what makes these goals so fascinating. They spark conversations,
Yeah.
they evoke emotions, and they become part of the collective memory of the tournament.
It's incredible how these moments in sports can stay with us for years to come.
They do.
Okay, so before we wrap things up, I want to recap some of the most surprising things we've uncovered in this deep dive.
Yeah.
I'm still blown away by the fact that only 8 countries have ever won the World Cup.
It really highlights the dominance of certain nations in the history of the sport, and the fact that only European and South American teams have ever reached the final.
Right.
Raises those important questions about the global power dynamics within football.
Right, and I'm still thinking about that record attendance of nearly 174,000 people at the 1950 final in Brazil.
Yeah.
It speaks to the passion and the global reach of this sport.
We've explored so many fascinating aspects of the World Cup finals, from the historical context and the evolution of the game to the legendary players, the iconic goals, and the dramatic penalty shootouts.
Yeah.
Each final adds another chapter to the story of this incredible tournament.
It's been a journey through history, through moments of triumph and heartbreak, and through the stories that have shaped the World Cup into the global phenomenon it is today.
As we reach the end of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I hope you've gained a deeper appreciation for the complexity, the drama, and the sheer beauty of the FIFA World Cup finals.
Absolutely. Now we want to leave you with something to ponder,
Okay.
a question to spark your own curiosity and further exploration.
Now that you've delved into the history, the rivalries, and the unforgettable moments, what aspects of the World Cup finals would you like to explore further?
Right.
What stories pique your interest, and what questions do you have about the future of this global spectacle?
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world of football. Until next time, Tom.